welcome to another episode of our CMO Peer Talks. My name is, almost dropped my pen there. My name is Raquel and I run our customer success department at Premier Republic. But as said, I'm also the host of our CMO Peer Talks community, the #1 community for marketers in the franchising space. Now with me, I have Brandy Zickefoose from i9 Sports. Hello, how are you today?
I'm great, how are you?
Good, thank you. So we were just talking about 2023 and what that looks like, because I know we had conversations from across the board to recession planning to expansion, and there's so much that franchisees are facing, as well as the Z's. Could you talk us a little bit about how you plan for 2023 and if anything changed as the year has progressed? I know we're only in month 2, but we know things ebb and flow.
Yeah, I think, anytime you go into planning, you're going into growth mode and how do we help grow what we're doing, but with the uncertainty kind of approaching 2023, making sure we had some flexibility built in and we're playing out a couple of different scenarios, whether we're beating or kind of lagging behind, and what are we going to do, and a lot of if what then if then kind of statements and plans, and kind of building some dynamics into the approach. Planning to start out the year strong to make sure we're off on the right foot, and just having some variables in there if we weren't kind of seeing what we wanted to see out of what the year came. But very good so far, and kind of hoping we can stay the course with what our ideal situation and plan is for the year.
Amazing, fantastic. Now I would love to kind of peel that back a little. If you'd be willing to share with the community maybe 1 or 2 things that you're focusing on in 2023, so our listeners would love to kind of learn what your realm is.
Yeah, so we offer youth sports leagues as a franchise business, so flag football, soccer, basketball, baseball, volleyball, introducing new sports like lacrosse and tennis and growing those. We have a bit of a mix of doing all the things digital and finding the right people, like all of us marketers like to do, but we also have a very grassroots and community focused approach, particularly in the local market. So it's always balancing out those 2 things. But we've primarily over the course of our business so far really embraced digital at the national level, and had the franchisees focusing on that community approach and building those relationships and doing things at the local level. For us this year, empowering the franchisees to do more in the digital space, because quite frankly, there's just not enough dollars to go around at the national level, and the rubber's really going to meet the road if they can supplement and do things there. And so figuring out how to empower them, give them the right tools and systems and education, and that right balance, because the world changes so much so quickly, and it's just not their primary job and not the most important thing they can do to stay up with all of that. But they need to understand it as they're investing in it, and making sure that that they're spending dollars in the right way. So that's a big one. And then also just for me personally, evolving our brand and kind of growing. So I was at i9 Sports for 5 years, 10 years ago, and just recently came back in November. So kind of coming in with a little bit older, a little bit wiser, hopefully, and have had a lot of things like, wow, this would be really cool for i9 over the years, and kind of coming back with a fresh perspective to do things. So thinking through our positioning and just the brand look, feel too. So hopefully that will make everything that we're doing on the media side a little bit more efficient and just more fun and fresh. So that's another big one, and also just upping our game on franchise support, really leaning into the relationship side and empowering them, especially with digital. It's going to be a very big important piece of it, because it is an area where they haven't been and leaned in as much. So figuring out how to support them as they start dipping their toe into the water and hopefully jump in with both feet.
Yeah. Wow. A lot to unpack there, and I'm definitely going to kind of peel the layers back. So in franchising, I would say there's 3 kind of key ways that you can do marketing. One is centralized, like you just said, everything at the head office. The second is hybrid, where you have a mix of head office and franchisees. And then the third is decentralized, where the franchisees have quite a lot of control of what they do. You said you started, or i9 Sports has been historically centralized, everything at the head office. Can you talk a little bit about what led you to give a little more free rein to a more hybrid approach, and also what are the few things that you're starting off with giving to them and to their plates?
Well, I mean, really it's just how much opportunity is available in the digital space and all the things you can do and that we should be doing, and the fact that there's not enough dollars for us to do it well and thoroughly at the brand level. When you think about how the investments go from what we get corporately from a brand fund and how much they're spending locally, you're talking about 3, 4, 5, 6, 10% multiplier that's spending at the local level. So it's more important that we empower that local spend, make sure they're spending in the right areas, make sure they're spending it well. So it's really just making sure we're able to capitalize on all the opportunity out in the digital space and maximize it. It is nice in the franchise space and working with the right types of partners to be able to do that and kind of give them a little bit of a safety net in ways that we're able to make sure that the dollars are being spent efficiently, that the brand is executed consistently, and that they don't have to be experts in the space to do it and do it well. So it's that balancing act. And the other thing, I mentioned we offer multiple sports, and obviously each area has different opportunities and focuses. Each franchisee might be trying to focus growth within different age groups or different sports, and so they can shift their dollars around really well in digital to grow the areas of business that they're most interested in growing and need to put more focus and dollars against.
I think that's a really interesting point in that you have such a benefit almost of being a community-oriented franchise, where the community is what a lot of franchisors and Zs are trying to build, but you have that innately because it is a youth sports franchise. And I love how you have the opportunity and the flexibility within each franchise to say, I want to build up my youth blacks, or I want to go, double down on like younger soccer. So I think that creates an opportunity for them to customize what they're doing. Are there any resources at the head office that you give for that, or do they have a little bit more flexibility in what they're doing at their own club level?
We, like any franchisor, definitely have a plan to success, and the ones that we know are going to be your core sports versus supplemental, and what's growing rapidly, but you never want to go away from what's your kind of core revenue source. So there's that standpoint of, as far as everybody might be like 80% similar, but it's different opportunities or folks that are different levels of growing and scaling up the business. But that's I think the big thing is making sure we do a lot from a resourcing each season, kind of giving out new assets and packages, and as much as we can make anything turnkey to do everything. So assets, best practices, different things as we're thinking through approaches and seasonality, different sports go in. You come out of a World Cup, soccer's on a bit of a wave. You come out of a Super Bowl, football's on a bit of a wave, and just making sure we align everything we're doing nationally, but then also take it that level deeper, and how do they kind of match and capitalize on opportunities? How do they have assets, and how do we make it easy for them to not have to reinvent the wheel and not do those things? So whether it's creative assets, whether it's best practices, whether it's actually being able to push things down through a different type of technology to make it even easier. It's a little bit of all those things. Yeah,
definitely. And I know one thing that is a trend right now is the automation of just everything. We see that from AI automating writing. We famously ChatGPT is the newcomer there, or the newcomer for us, I should say, as the public. What about, for your specific level, from giving the reins to the franchisees, is there any automation that you're doing for them? Any tech that you're enabling them with?
We do a lot, and we need to do more. There are certain things, there are certain types of automated emails and drip emails, but we also do a lot of things in a batch and blast approach, especially at the local level. So is a kind of goal as quickly as we can get it done, but it's probably like a next year thing, laying the groundwork this year of looking through how do we do more kind of automation and nurturing, right message, right person, right time, and not a one-size-fits-all approach. Laying out that from a tech and capabilities and how we get into that is not something you could do overnight, and I wish we were further ahead of that curve than we were. But just looking at the numbers for us of when somebody comes in and expresses interest, how quickly they register or don't, and the importance of being able to to nurture them quickly versus waiting around and doing an email a week or something like that, and missing kind of the opportunity to convert at a higher degree. So on the email nurture, whether it's text or in the media side of retargeting and things like that. So we're definitely looking at a lot of those types of things, dynamic content, and some of those, but the Chat GPT and all the rapidly changing world, just even over the last few weeks,
I know,
is something we're definitely looking at. See opportunity. It's a potential big disruptor, and how do we potentially weave that into our plans?
I think as franchisors, we see everything on there because it's our job. We're in marketing. We need that's why we're at IFA as well, to learn from one another and to see everything that we can do to make our jobs easier. But to really put it into practice, I think, is another aspect. And I would love to know, if I could, you mentioned that in your let's say step away from I9 Sports, you mentioned you would think, oh, this would be great to kind of pull back in. Now that you're back, I'd love to know, what are some things that you thought maybe in the past would be great and that you've now implemented into the I9's marketing space?
Well, I think a big piece of it is the missing component of local digital. It having been, just whenever we something as simple as search that we do, national search campaigns at the national level, but we, depending on the month, it might fluctuate as budgets go up and demand changes. Yep. But we're looking at 20 to 25% of search impressions. You're just leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. Yeah. And so empowering things like that, but then also the importance of it being not just dipping in with search, but having a full stack and then doing, search, social, display, and prospecting and geo-targeting. Yeah. Things like road signs, those little, see them in political season and things like that, very effective for us, but that's not a future-proof strategy in my mind. I mean, it's not good for the environment to throw this stuff out on, and so things like geo-fencing and how do we just, kind of bring it forward with a little bit more, lean into what's worked in the past, but also there's so much more opportunities to leverage technology and have a more scalable approach to what we're doing and have a lot more tracking around what's working and be able to pull levers and deploy them. So that's one of the big things, and then a lot of it's just really thinking through how to use first-party data to target more smart, more intelligently, figure out where we should be placing venues, figure out how we find customers more efficiently based on what we know about customers that we've had. The data side of it and the back-end data and the first-party data is some of the stuff I like as a bit of a data geek.
Yeah, yeah. I think the data is like the one thing that you can always just do more with, because data's always changing. There's so many points that you have in a consumer journey as the consumer that you as a franchisor can pick up and pull. So how do you define what data the franchisee should care about, or the data that you're looking to kind of spend more time on?
For me, there's a lot of rabbit holes and things like that that you can go in. For franchisees, I think you have to boil it down and keep it really simple. Like, how do you do things through dashboards, trending, and make it really easy to not even to give more actionable data, or just give the insights with the background of data for anybody that wants to dive a level deeper. But what we find is well over half of our franchisees would rather just be told the insights versus having to dig and mine through the data. Yeah. There's certainly franchisees that come from all walks of life, and so you want to have a little bit of being able to peel the layers of the onion back for those that want to, and they might come with great insights from their localized approach and how it can impact their market that could help everybody out. But that is one of the things, as far as mining through data and seeing the opportunities and putting it in play, that we try to take on our side and really just give them the insights and what it means for their business, what's working, what's not working, where we maybe this points to an opportunity to shift things around at the local level. And be more action oriented with the data at the local level.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. I think taking the data that you collect as a system and then giving it to franchisees in a way that it matters to them and they actually care about is really important, because they're wanting leads, they're wanting that ROI. But if you're showing them how easy it is to digest it, so to speak, it really makes the light bulb go off and connect the dots and so on.
Yeah, I mean, for us, obviously everybody's looking year over year and forecasting out based on where you are, where you might be. So doing a little bit of that, but how can we make, if we want so many registrations, then how many leads are you going to need? Yeah. If you want this many leads, how much money do you need to spend? If you do it, spend this much money in this many channels and tactics. That's really where we're trying to get, is very prescriptive, predictable, forecastable from a marketing perspective of if you do this, then you should get the results that you want, and then have tracking along the time. Yeah. And then on our end, we're using a little bit, diving a lot deeper into, all right, well, within these channels, how do we make them more efficient? With franchisees, just really simplifying it of, if you spend in these areas, it should come, and then we'll just dive in and try to make things work better on the back end.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I think what you're doing at I9 Sports is really unique in that you're giving that freedom and creativity from that fully centralized approach to this hybrid approach, both, as you said, on the community level and the digital level, as well as the data level, because it ultimately is how they're going to be successful.
Yeah, and whenever I came back, talking to a lot of folks are very interested in digital. some are intimidated. A lot of our franchisees want to embrace it, and kind of ask the question, can I just do it myself? And it's like, you might be able to do a couple of things. You could run some Facebook campaigns and things like that on your own, but some of this stuff is, to do it well and to make sure you're spending money in the right area, you can mess up your geographic targeting and spend a lot of money, running a national campaign and not the right type of thing. So, just figuring out how we support them through this and empower them so they're making right decisions and not wasting their money is the big thing for us. You got to balance. It's not control. It's in their best interest. And having that balance of being able for them to be able to steer things in the way that they want for their specific business needs. But for us, if I recommend that they do something, I just want to make sure that it's something I'd spend my own money on.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really good point. It may seem obvious, but you want to practice what you preach. I think the final question I would love to get your feedback on is, when did you know the tipping point from moving to centralized to giving them more free reign? Like, what was okay, we actually need to give them some opportunities to do this themselves?
For me, it was knowing even with a big budget that it wasn't enough, and that there's so much, there are very effective ways to reach people that are likely to do business with you. And we were just scratching the surface with the dollars that we had, and we're never going to be able to adequately capitalize on the opportunity in the space and do it well. And there's going to be more and more opportunity in the digital space. It's not going to get smaller over time, and our budget's that opportunity is only going to grow, and our budget's going to get more and more inadequate at the national level to be able to do it. So it's finding out how to deploy national spend against things that are the most efficient and best done nationally, and then shift things that we're currently doing nationally down to the local level where they can be done more efficiently and more effectively, or as efficiently and effectively at the national level. Or the local level. The local level, absolutely. So I know you said that was the last question, but I have to ask one more just because you're in youth sports. What were your sports that you did as a kid? Grew up playing a little bit of everything, soccer, t-ball, softball, basketball, and then when I was in high school, I started getting into rowing. Went to college on a rowing scholarship.
Amazing.
So, so switched it up a little bit. I don't see us offering rowing anytime soon, but that was my thing. Sports to me, and a lot of the folks in our office, doesn't have to be, but learned so much through sports. Some of my best friends are folks that I played with in high school and college. So love being able to help do that for more kids as they grow up and have a lot of fun, get some healthy experience, but also learn all the life lessons that you learn through playing sports. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, Brandy Zickefoose from I9 Sports. Thank you so much.